All right, so free food, free advice. Low expectations, right? All right, so here's what we're going to do. It's free, but you're going to have to play along. So I don't do slides, so anybody that's ever met me knows I don't do slides. Boston, we got to give you one, right? Let's see. You look bored. Let's see. How about you? You can play along. I got to go to the other side of the room. All right, so you guys are going to be props for this discussion, and there's no microphone, so hopefully you can hear me, and if you can't, just raise your, give me this one. I mean, that would be better than the middle finger. Give me this one, and I'll do a little hair parts. I like that tie. All right, let's do it here. Boom, boom. Oh, Mars. We got to give Allison one from Mars. All right, so don't look. So here's what we're going to do. I went to Bowling Green State University undergrad and always wanted to get my MBA, never did, because I kept getting jobs that I didn't know how to do, and I never had time and had 3 kids. So for those of you who think, gosh, I have to get my MBA, you don't. If you want to, that's great, but don't think you have to. But I've been on the board at Owen, and if you're going to get an MBA, I guarantee you companies love Owen because it has a different attitude than many of the other programs. It does not have arrogance, I promise you, and they know that. And a lot of big companies today are sick and tired of arrogance. So that's not here. And I can promise you that. And so any way I can help you with that, I would love to, but I want to start with you don't have to. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about leadership in life. I'm going to try to blend it together. There's no slides. This is a discussion, and it's kind of back and forth. But I'm basically going to try to help you, whether you want to be a CEO or whether you want to be a sales rep or whether you want to be head of accounting or whether you want to start your own business. My goal is to help you by the things that I've learned and mistakes I've made. And it's wide open for questions at any point. We'll have a little time at the end for questions as well. So we've got 6 numbers, and we've got 3 tidbits. So that's what we're going to do. We're talking about 6 things. So no, you got one? All right, rip it open. Here we go. I couldn't do Karnak with you. I could have given you a Starbucks card, but they said it was free. So what's it say? Out loud.
If you want to lead people, you have to...
If you want to lead people, you have to what? It's not free tonight. You got to play. You have to what?
Inspire.
Sorry.
Inspire.
Inspire. What else? What was that? Dude, I like that. I hate the fact you figured me out. What else? Be charismatic. What else?
Listen to them.
Sorry?
Listen to them.
Ooh, nice. Good. So, yeah. Those are all good. And here's the thing I would like you to take out of this. If you want to lead people, you have to genuinely be able to put their needs before yours. And raise your hand if you think you can do that. Okay, so here's the deal. On Tuesday night at Vandy, free food, free advice, you can do that. But that's not how it happens. So here's how it happens. You get a new job, you get promoted, you change divisions, and all of a sudden you're leading people. And you remember this bald guy telling you have to put people ahead of yourself. And you want to do that. But all of a sudden you find people who are smarter than you, who are older than you, who are better leaders than you, who know the business better than you, and that starts to creep in, and it will happen to you. So I'm 29 years old, not now, but when I was 29 years old, I was on a friggin' roll, and I was having a ball, and they said, well, let's see if this guy can run a $2.5 billion sales organization. So at 29, they gave me $2.5 billion worth of sales as vice president of sales. I had 16 people working directly for me and like 300 salespeople. Now, I had every intent to do what we talked about. Until I'm sitting in this room and I'm thinking, my God, all these people that work for me are like average of 49 years old. They know more than I do. I don't even understand the business. And so I would be in a meeting and I would say something. And guess what I would think to myself? I would say, shit, that did not sound like something a VP would say. I literally would say it to myself. And I'd say, but that sounded like it came from me. And I'm talking to myself. And guess what happens when all that stuff starts to creep in? Do you think you're thinking about others first? No. You're human. And you start to think about yourself. And you start to worry about what you sound like. And you start to try to be a vice president, which you're like, dude, no, if they knew what I didn't know, it'd scare the hell out of them. Right? Think about it. But that's why you find yourself in any company you'll be in with an insecure leader. Because it's hard. And you constantly are getting feedback. So, you have to try really hard to always put others before yourself if you want to be truly a great leader. And don't think for a second that it's easy, because it's very, very hard to do. Okay? So that's kind of number one. And the great news for me was, after about 3 weeks, and literally I would go home and read books going, I got to find a book that makes me look like a VP or sound like a VP. And this friend, lifetime friend, who stayed at my house 2 weeks ago, came up to me and said, Cahill, I've known you for 6 years. You're 29 years old. Yes, you're over your head. But we put you in this job because you are a natural leader, salesperson. Be yourself, because it works. And that he did me such a favor, because I needed somebody to hug me and say, just be yourself and it will work. And the next thing you know, I started thinking about everybody else. I stopped thinking about me, dummy. And guess what happens? It works. Because 9 out of 10 leaders don't do that. Not because they don't know that. Not because they don't want to. Because it's really hard to do. It's that human thing. So when you start to feel that, even if you're not leading a big group, you could be leading a small team, you could be leading a soccer team, you could be leading anything, stop and say, I'm going to be myself, it's going to work, I need to focus on them, because my job is to put their needs first if I'm going to be the leader they need me to be. Okay? Does that sound okay? So don't forget that, because it's hard. All right, who's got number 2? All right, Boston. Hey, you're up 1-0 right now in the baseball game. Is it still 1-0? Ooh, great. She likes Tom Brady better, though.
The best way to learn to lead is to ... Hint, most people miss the opportunity.
Okay, so the best way to learn to lead is to ... And most people miss the opportunity. So, the best way to learn to lead is to what? Listen. Come on. A little louder. Have a good mentor. Got that. What else? Okay. So this one, most people, yeah, Amanda.
To learn from other leaders' mistakes when they mess up.
Bingo. So here's the deal. Most people hope, wish that they will find a mentor, find someone that they can learn from. And most people miss this opportunity because it is so much fun and it is so easy to kick the crap out of a jerk boss. You ever seen it? Right? You see that, you see him say stuff stupid, you see him do the wrong thing, and it's just like peanut gallery time. Hey, we're going to talk about, can you believe they said that? Can you believe what he did? Can you believe she thinks that? And what happens is you miss the best opportunity you're ever going to have. And here's why. The best opportunity you're ever going to have to learn to lead is to know how it feels when you see it done to you the wrong way. It's inside you. You can viscerally feel it. How I felt when she did that. How I saw someone else react when they did that. Do not miss that opportunity. And most people miss it because they're having so much fun making fun of them, because it's kind of a sport. So when you see it done wrong and you feel it, you're never going to get a better chance to learn than right then. Because you know how it feels, you see how it looks, you see the reaction of others, and it's free. So don't miss that, because there are so many opportunities that are so much better than hopefully one day seeing it done right. Because you don't see it done right as much as you see it done wrong. Okay? So don't miss that opportunity. All right, who's got 3? Yeah.
The key to your blind spots.
A lot of dots. The key to your blind spots. What's a blind spot? Things you don't know about, right? What else would be a blind spot? Things you overlook. What else about a person? I have an area for what? A weakness, right? What do we call it? Opportunity. Can't use that word, right? So that's a blind spot. So here's the deal. Don't forget this. For the most part, people will do what people have done. Now, that does not mean if you have a weakness that you can't improve on it. Does not mean that. But here's the deal about great teams in my experience and great leaders. One, they know that blind spot. They know that area of weakness. And 2, they find someone who can offset it. So here's the deal. Example. I will never forget this. I love to grab a company, go into the company and say, okay, guys, come on. Let's take some truth serum. We suck. Everybody knows it. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out on the table, and let's start figuring out what are the things we need to do to get better. So those end up turning out to be a project, right? A project is blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter what it is, but you have a project. One of the key pieces of business today is project management. Anybody studied it? Anybody seen it done well? Okay? Project management is taking that project and making sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do to get to the solution. So here's what I know about myself. I love those meetings. I hate day 2. Because what do you have to do on day 2? You laid out what you have to do. What do you have to do on day 2? You got to keep score. You got to make sure people are doing the shit you talked about, all that stuff. Yeah, I like to go, okay, let's go. We're done, right? No, we're not done. It's a project, and we have got to make sure everybody does what they're supposed to do. And this guy named Dean Weissop loved that stuff. And so guess what? Dean became my project manager, and for 20 years, every time there was a project, guess who got it? Dean taught other people how to do it because I wasn't very good at it. I got so bored day 2 and 3 that I would hurt the team because I kept saying, let's go over here and get done. And they say, no, but we got to do the work. And we got to keep score, and we got to hold people accountable. So Dean was my best way to take care of my blind spot. And there's nothing. You will never find a better chance to take care and to improve on your blind spot than to watch Dean do it right. I think I could actually do it today after 20 years. But Dean was great at that. And the deal that Dean and I cut was he just didn't like finance. He didn't like accounting. He didn't know how we made money. And he said, Doug, I'll do all your project management stuff. Teach me how we make money. So every month I'd sit down for 20 minutes with Dean. And we'd talk about how we're making money, why we're making money, what's going on. Because that was his blind spot. So know yours. Yes, work on it, but don't forget you're probably never going to be really good at that. But find your dean who you know knows how to do it. And guess what? Dean felt really, really important because he knew he was the only one that could lead that, and then he taught others. And he knew I wasn't about to try to do it. Okay, so find that person who understands you being honest about it, get your blind spot, find that person who's actually really good at that naturally, and then help them if they have a spot that you can help them with. Because you will find you'll be a lot quicker getting things done than if you say, I'm not very good at project management, but I'm going to take a class on that and I'm going to get better. Well, guess what? You're never going to be as good as Dean. Okay, so it's not that you can't improve, but find the people who naturally do what you don't do well, and you'll be such a better team because everybody will have something they're really good at. And it makes for great yin and yang, I think. I always have, and I think it's a great opportunity to watch how to get better by seeing somebody. Think about it. We get all this feedback on all these stupid things that we do wrong in our blind spot. Does that really help? It's kind of hard, that human thing, right? Because we're not really listening when they're telling us, right? Because we're going to tell them why they're wrong. But when you watch Dean do it, you're like, dude, that's how you do it. So don't miss the opportunity to see it done right, and you'll get better at it. Okay? All right, that was 3. 4. Cow. We had a cowgirl back there. Do not attempt to change your culture unless. So, how many people have worked in a situation, part-time, whatever, where they were in a culture that they would like to change and for it to be different? Right? So you're going to get an opportunity, whether it be with your division or with your team or with your company, to change culture. Now here's the deal. Do not attempt to change culture unless you have air cover. And what that means is, let's say you're a division in a company and you really have a team that wants to and knows that you have to change the culture to get better. Let's say you're focused on all the BS inside and you're not focused on the customer. We want to change our culture and we want to be customer first, blah, blah, blah. I'm just using it as an example. Make sure if you're truly going to do this, because you will scare everyone, including yourself, if you do this right. What happens is all these people, when you start to change, are saying, yeah, let's change this culture. I hate the old way, until you change it. And then they just kind of dig in and go, dude, you are not making me change. So if you don't have air cover, and what air cover means is make sure that your boss or your boss's boss or somebody, not that they have to like you, that would be helpful, but it would be really helpful if they support that you're going to go change this culture. Because it gets really crazy. Where'd you work this summer? At Mars. Unbelievable family company. They bought my company, and they kept telling me, Doug, we didn't buy you so you could be like Mars. We bought you so we could change Mars to be like your company. That's what you need, the family saying that. But holy smokes, they didn't mean that. It's because every time we would say, we're going to do this, they said, well, that's not what Mars does. Yeah, but you said you wanted to be different. And it gets really crazy. And it's little things like time cards and things like that. So make sure you've got air cover, because you'll fail when it gets hard. And your team and those folks that are sitting in the bunker are going to turn on you. So don't be afraid of it, but don't underestimate it. Because so many people do the rah-rah thing, we're going to change the culture, but they don't understand that to do that right, it's really hard to do, and you're going to scare everyone and yourself and your boss, and you got to have that air cover. So make sure that you sell that person on why it's needed. We cannot meet our financial goals unless we do this. We can't keep doing this. Okay? And then make sure you've got support for that, because I've seen a lot of people try that. All right, number 5. Who's got that? Yeah.
Passion is most powerful when it's
Okay, passion is most powerful when it's. So, this one's really, I think, important because you're going to find yourself probably with this. My experience, and you guys, how many people have been told, son, chase your passion, right? Make sure you're passionate. Well, what do I do when I grow up? Well, I don't know, just make sure it's what you're passionate about, right? How many times have you heard that, right? Huh, Mom, Dad, Uncle, right? So it's cool. But here's the deal on passion. My experience says that it lives in a strange way in two parts of your body. I don't know why. But it lives here and it lives here. So it's either in your mind or it's in your heart. Or it's both. Okay? So, you've seen times where you get your head around something, but you can't get your heart around it. When you were 16, you saw you got your heart around something, but not your head, right? We've all done that. I didn't mean to pick on you, but I'm sure you had all these guys you were passionate about. No, it happens, right? You lock it here, and you're like, ugh, can't get my head around that. I'm sorry. But it happens. So here's the deal about passion, and don't forget this, because I really, really hope it happens to you. When you find that it locks into both your mind and your heart, watch out, holy smokes. Because when that happens, it is contagious. And for you to be successful as a leader, no matter how small or how big your team is, they need to be infected by your passion or the team's passion for it to really stick. And my experience is, if it's only in one of two places, it's not contagious. When it's in both, it just oozes out of you. People get it. They spread it. They start spreading it. You will not believe how much fun it is to watch that happen. To where you're locked and you start to see people and you start to see people and you start to see it spreading. It is like the most fun you can ever have on a team. So I'm 29, I'm 35 now, and they decide to give me this job called president. I was 34, president of Winchester, okay, made ammo. Because I fixed these other businesses. They're like, hey, we got this really screwed up business at Owen. It's out in East Alton, Illinois, which some people call East Awful, Illinois. But it's out in East Alton, Illinois, and we need you to go fix it, okay? So they wanted me to be president of Winchester. And so I walk in, long story short, because I'm going to try to get to the passion thing, is there's 4,000 people in this plant. There are 11 unions in one plant, and we're making 16 million rounds of ammo a day. And I'm 34 at the time. And so we're rocking, we got it going. I got my head around this business. But raise your hand if you're not for the ammunition business. Please, be honest. I couldn't get my heart into it. I just couldn't. Because there's so many bad things about that business. Now, I didn't ask for the job. But I'm like, dude, you want me to be president of Winchester? Hell yeah, I'll be president of Winchester. But I just couldn't. And so I knew I couldn't. And it's got to be the first time since I was 8 years old that I couldn't lock something. And it was like and it wouldn't lock. I could not lock it. And I will never forget it. I was in D.C. I was meeting with all these senators because they wanted the vote of, right, the ammo guys. And it was all BS. It was like what's going on right now. And it didn't matter. It wasn't important. And I'll just never forget, I'm thinking, wow, I'm almost 37. I'm going to run this whole company, but I can't do this. And my 7-year-old at the time was the one who said, you can't do this. And I came home, I walked in, it was like 6 o'clock, and I get chills when I think about this because he put his hands right here. And he goes, Daddy, was that your ammo that killed that guy on the news? And I'll never forget it. I mean, I just wanted to die. I just like, oh my God, now I know. The reason I can't get my heart into this is because it's breaking my heart. Because there's a side of that. Now, I'm not here to discuss ammo, because ammo's ammo. But what I'm telling you is that when you can't get your heart behind something that you're supposed to get your heart behind, go do something else. Because you will not be able to be passionate about it. It won't lock. And if it doesn't lock, it won't be contagious. And if it's not contagious, it won't work. So you'll have that. And hopefully it's not ammo, but hopefully it's something where you go, dude, I just don't agree with what we're doing. I don't agree with how we're doing it. And if that happens, go find something else you can lock your heart and your head into. Because life's too short. You shouldn't have to not be able to be locked and be into it heart and head. Because you really need to be both. Okay? Sorry to bring you down, but that you will find that. That'll happen. Thank God my kid grabbed my face, right? Because I needed somebody to grab me at that point. Because I knew I couldn't do it. I just didn't know why. And man, he did it. Whew, totally. So I went and sold dog food after that. Hell, that's politically positive, right? So, well, who's got the next one? 6. Yeah. Nice tie, dude. I like that. You come in here with a suit on. I'm impressed.
Never ever cross the line. It's absolute.
All right. Never ever cross the line. It's absolute. So, what does that mean? You got the ... What's the ... Never ever cross the line. It's absolute. No, it's not vodka. What is it? Never ever cross the line. It's absolute. Integrity. And you can sit here and say, no shit, Sherlock. Right? That's obvious. Why don't you tell something we don't know? But you will find yourself in a situation where because they've done it before, because everybody's doing it, because your boss said we're doing it, you are going to be asked to violate that in your career. It's going to happen. And I hope it doesn't. So I go to pet food. And I'm 37, $200 million company, private equity buys it, and we're going to take this thing to $1 billion. So what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to write a check because I want to invest in this, right? Because we're going to kill this thing. So I don't have any money. So I write a check for $500,000 that I borrowed at the bank for 10% interest. I would not advise that. I bought 10. My wife was like, "Are you kidding me? You just borrowed $500,000." I said, "Can you believe they gave it to me?" It was like this little bank. He's like, "Dude, you're CEO of this company. Yeah, we're gonna." I'm like, "Whew." So I invested in this company before I walk in. Would not advise that either. So 3 weeks in, boom, we're pet food. We got 12 plants, all this stuff. Pet food's a cool business, right? Man, it's not ammo. I'm having a ball. So I get my team together, and this company, and you will probably, how's Rav? Good. Is he good? Say hi. All right. So you're probably going to see a situation where you walk in and there's a culture. And the culture was the guy running the business had been there 39 years. It was very tightly run, and there were only a few people that really knew what was going on. Okay? Good company, but really, really not this information spread. And so 3 weeks after I got the team together, we're going to have a session because you need to do this, right? What are we going to be when we grow up? How are we going to take this thing to $1 billion? We're only $200 million, blah, blah, blah. And I said, we need some core values. And guys, you've seen them, right? They're on the wall. You put them up there. What are you smiling about? You've seen them, right? Put them up on the wall and everybody goes, "Can you believe number 2? We don't ever do number 2, right? But you declare them. And the key to core values is don't get cynical about them. It's real easy. All it is you and me agree these are the ground rules for behavior. This is how we're going to treat each other. That's all they are. And you need them because you're human. So when you see core values, make sure that you understand them from the leader and that you can agree that that's how we're going to treat one another. And that's what they should be. If it's other that blah, 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 force somebody to say, hey, are these ground rules for behavior? Because that's what's important. How are we going to treat each other? So I said to the team, we're going to have 4 or 5 of them. It appears we don't have any right now, which was true. That's okay. But the first one's not up for discussion, and it's absolute integrity. And we're going to use the word absolute because we live in a world of gray. And I don't want you to be in gray. I want you to know right or wrong, and I will always support you right, not gray. So we're going to use the word absolute. No big deal, right? I'm thinking that takes, 3 minutes? And we're on to number 2. 15 to 20 minutes later, we're still talking about it. And I'm thinking to myself, why are we still talking about this? And then Earl raises his hand and he said, how does Webster define absolute? And literally, sorry, but I said, are you shitting me? What do you mean, how's Weber define absolute? I mean, I was so upset because that's not really hard. And I didn't know what was going on. If I'd have been a better leader, I would have figured it out. So we take a break. Steve Warzanik comes up to me and says, Mr. Cahill, I said, Steve, my name's Doug. He goes, okay, Mr. Cahill, I can't call you Doug. Can you walk outside? So we walk outside. So we walk outside and he said, Mr. Cahill, the reason we are trying to define absolute integrity is because, you know, in this dog food bag, there's a label. And the label says, this is what you're putting in the bag. Well, we're not really putting in the bag what it says on the label. And the second thing I thought of was, are you kidding me? What's the first thing I thought of? I just borrowed $500,000. And then the third thing is, what the hell are we putting in the bag? Right? And this is what he says next, because he knew I was Irish and he knew I was going to lose it. He said, don't worry, it's not going to kill the dog. Like, we got number 2. We make dog food that won't kill your dog. You can't make it up. I'm serious. I'm sitting here saying to myself, are you kidding me? I said, Steve, what are we putting in the bag? He goes, well, everybody does it. Code, you're going to hear it, and you're going to say, it's okay. It's not. Everybody does it. The whole industry does it. When commodities go up, we just kind of change the deck around because maybe wheat is too expensive and we'll put soybean into this. I said, well, Steve, what's it going to do to the dog? He says to me, have you ever eaten a head of lettuce? I'm like, what are you talking about, a head of lettuce? He goes, that's kind of what it's doing to the dog. So instead of putting wheat in, they were putting wheat mids, which is the shell. It's like a peanut. There's a little shell. And so it's all roughage. So you don't want to go in your backyard if you're doing this, okay? So I'm like, Steve, are you kidding me? He goes, yeah, but don't worry about it. Everybody does it. I'm thinking, we're shipping 250 trucks a day of pet food. And so anyway, I called the CEO, who was going to retire in a year, and I said, Bob, it's Doug. Just got to have a little meeting, talk to Steve, find out what we say is going in the bag is not going in the bag. What's the first thing he says? Everybody's doing it. What's the second thing he says? I said, Bob, I don't care if everybody's, we're not doing it. We're going to change every formula back to what it says is in the bag by Monday at noon or I quit. And Bob, if I quit, it's no big deal, but I'm not working at a place that does that. He said, Doug, we can't do that. Who wants to go into finance? Okay? When you have a company that's owned by private equity, you put debt on the company and you have covenants with your bank. Well, you basically bust your covenants. What happened was we couldn't do it because it was going to cost us $3.5 million. And we were going to bust our covenants, and if we did that, it was going to cost us $5 million. Long story short, at 12 o'clock on Monday, we changed every formula back. And we did that and busted our covenants, and it took us 2 years to make up for that. And it would have been better for the business short term had we not done it. But when we sold it to Mars, in 2006. The quality that we had at that point was the reason they wanted to buy the business, because they knew we made it better than they did. And there's nothing I could have done to send a message to the organization how important it was. So when you find that you're in a situation where they've done it that way or it's okay, do not, life is too short. Don't ever cross the line. Just say, hey, I'm not doing that. No. And you won't believe how hard it is to do that at certain points. But you'll find yourself in that situation. So I will root for you to do the right thing. Sometimes it's the hardest thing, too. So 3 tidbits left. It'll take 2 minutes. Who's got tidbit 1? What's it say? These are free, just like tonight. Tidbit 1.
Trust your gut on.
Trust your gut on. How many people have said, I'm going to go with my gut? All right? How many people said, they've seen somebody who said, I don't know, I went with my gut? Well, that was the stupidest gut you've ever had. Trust your gut on no. Be careful on yes. When you're saying to yourself, I'm going to go with my gut, when it's a no, trust it. When it's a yes, be careful. Okay? Just a little experience. Tidbit 2. Oh, this one, you made me do this. This one is one. So I have to do this because this has helped a few people. And I just had to do it because when I was 29, when I got that job, I'm U.S. Open Masters. I'm at all these things entertaining customers, and I'm a drunk. I mean, I'm like 29 going, my liver is going to be this big. What am I doing? And so I loved vodka. How many people here like vodka? Right? So if you like vodka, when you do company things, you have to drink scotch. And scotch sucks. It's terrible. You will hate it. You have to drink it. Because if you drink vodka, you're going to lose your job or your liver. So I started drinking scotch. I'm like, God, this stuff is awful. People actually drink this. And it was perfect because I could drink a scotch the whole night. And I've just seen so many people work so hard for their career. They're hungry, they're tired, they sleep deprived. They end up 7 o'clock, they're at an event for a company. They get hammered, they lose their job, or they screw their career up. So drink what you want with your friends and your family. But if you like vodka, drink scotch. If you like rum, drink something else. But don't drink what you like at company functions, okay? Because I'm telling you, I have seen so many people screw it up. And if you do what I did, mark your calendar, 2 years. Because what happens after you drink scotch for 2 years? You start liking scotch. Okay, so you got to switch, all right? Something you threw up on, like rum, right? I threw up on rum. I now drink rum. So whatever you don't like, drink. I did in college, I'm sorry. So that's my tidbit, and that's tidbit 2. Now, tidbit 3, and we're almost done. Who's got it? All right, this is Jim Bradford, the retired dean, one of my favorite quotes. I think it sums it all up. From Jim.
Quote from Dean Jim Bradford, Many Open. If you remain open, honest, and truthful, you'll sleep at night and find that people will follow your lead during the day.
So Jim said that. I think it's so well said. If you remain open and honest and truthful, you'll sleep at night, and you'll find that people will follow your lead during the day. I think it's a great quote. And again, no matter what you choose to do, we overcomplicate business, we overcomplicate careers, we overcomplicate life. It's not that complicated. Find something that you like. Find something you can lock in. Find it that you're doing it with people you enjoy being with, and you'll be successful. You really will. So, I went 48 minutes, and I'm sorry if that's too long for you guys, but I can open it up for questions, and if you got to run, I won't be offended. Questions? Come on. Yeah.
Number 4, you said don't change an organization's culture unless you have essentially the backing of your boss. If your boss is deciding on doing that, why is it relevant to you?
So if your boss has decided not to do it?
No, if
So most of the time the boss has 5 or 6 people reporting to them. You might be running a particular division. You want to, and your team saying, we can do this so much better if we can have a different way about it. So what you want to make sure is that if you do that, that your boss isn't the one that's going to hold it up or against it, because as soon as these people hunker down, they're going to go to your boss. That's the key. But if your boss supports it, give it a rip. But you got to make sure that he or she does, because it always comes back. Does that make sense? It's a good question. Yes?
What's the biggest mistake you've seen someone else make that you were able to learn from?
Biggest mistake I've seen someone else make. You know, I have seen so many leaders try to fake that it's not about them, clearly horrible actors, and people just see through that so fast. I think you're better off saying, listen, I love me, and you better love me or we're not going to get along, than trying to fake it poorly. And I have seen so many leaders do such a crap job of acting like they really care about what you think, or they're going to put you first. And it just drives me nuts. It's like chalkboard. And I really think you're better off. Literally, you're better off being honest, saying, dude, I'm not very good at this, so I'm not going to fake it. And there'll be times where I'm going to slip up and it's all going to be about me, than doing what I keep saying. I just see so many people do that. That to me has been just, every time I see it, I'm like, remember that. Don't do that. I think I've learned more from that. And boy, can you see it, because you see visceral reaction from others. And don't miss that opportunity. Yeah?
Well, the flip side of that, I guess, what's something you've learned from a mentor or a leader you admired?
Yeah, I think something I'm still working on. I get so fired up when I'm in these meetings and doing things. There's just, silence is not a bad thing. And there are just so many times when I have had the opportunity in a small setting or in a team, if I just would have waited, it would have been so much better. I will finish someone's sentence, or I will cut them off on not trying to, or I'll go where I want to go. And all I needed to do is just shut the hell up and listen, and it would have been so much better. And so I had a boss and a father. My father was the greatest listener on earth. He died when I was 19, but I learned so much about that. And to this day, I would love to be like him, and I still can't do it. I'm better, but I think that's the best. Everybody wants to fill the space, particularly when they're nervous, in a one-on-one or a one-on-three or team meeting. And there's just something to be said about truly not having to fill the space and just listen and be quiet. And I'm still working on it. And I think that's the best. Larry Kerr was his name. He's the greatest I've ever seen. My dad was probably the second best I've ever seen. And I just saw him use that so effectively. And it was so empowering to me to work for him, because there was never a point at which I didn't get to say what I really felt. So I think that's probably what comes to mind. Okay, one more question, then I'll let you go. Yeah.
Story about the pet food and the commodity prices and that nature. It reminded me of Ray Dalio's story about when he was contracted by McDonald's to help them manage their fluctuation in chicken nuggets, and he decided to really go on position with like soybean corn.
Yep.
I was wondering if so ultimately like the solution was the locking prices in futures, and then they were guaranteed prices. Was that something that the company hadn't been doing that needed to?
Yeah. So if you didn't hear it, Commodities, was that part of what the problem was? And what I will say about that, first of all, is no one can ever figure it out long enough to protect from having to raise price. But yes, we did not have that. But what ended up being the reason Mars really wanted to buy our company was that every time this would happen, the brand folks would stop spending on advertising, and that would help them pay for the commodity, but we were straight cost, private label, no advertising, so we'd get smoked. And so I basically went to Bentonville, Arkansas, and got on my knees and went to the CEO. I went over every person there. I almost went and took the grave off Sam Walton and picked him up, because I went to the CEO and I said, listen, we are the most important vendor ever. You said that yourself, but you're killing us. And I can't keep running this business if you kill us. We're doing the wrong thing because you guys won't partner with us. And you know what they said? Old Roy was Sam Walton's bird dog. We will never do anything to hurt Old Roy. And they gave us a pass-through contract, and we didn't have to hedge commodities because they go up and they go down, and Walmart basically agreed, don't put this on the tape, they agreed to work with us on commodities. They had never done that before with anyone, but no one had ever made that much Old Roy for them, and it was a true partnership. So we could have hedged, but we would have been wrong. And what we did is we went to the customer and said, we can't do this, and we have to find a way, and it worked. So that was as a result of originally. I never even thought about tying that together, but that's why we did it. So, good question. All right, guys, good luck to you, and thanks for coming. Enjoyed it.